Hey guys! Tonight we're going to drift back to a time of wonderful, and frankly, quite weird inventions. A time when a restless mind wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a medical condition. And the proposed cures were often more peculiar than the problem itself. We're stepping into the late Victorian era. A world lit by gaslight and powered by steam. Where every problem, no matter how small, seemed to have a complicated, clockwork solution waiting to be patented. It's an era of quiet routine and loud contraptions. Of gentle sensibilities and some truly baffling ideas about wellness. Let's be honest. Faced with the daily reality of their world, the corsets, the coal smoke, the complete lack of instant coffee, you probably wouldn't last a week. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always lovely to know who's listening. So feel free to leave a comment telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's a nice way for us to feel connected on this little journey. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your eyes flicker open. But not to the jarring blare of a modern alarm. Instead, a gentle, rhythmic hissing has pulled you from the depths of a shallow, troubled sleep. It's a sound that has become the signature of your mornings. For a moment, you just lie there, burrowed under a formidable mountain of quilts and heavy blankets. The air in the room carrying a distinct, damp chill that nips at the tip of your nose. The world outside your window is a soft, pre-dawn grey. The street below still silent. But here, in your room, the day has already begun. Thanks to the contraption on your bedside table. It's your automatic tea maker. A marvel of brass, copper piping, and polished wood. It looks less like a kitchen appliance and more like something a slightly mad clockmaker would build on a dare. You watch its process unfold in the dim light. A small, built-in clock, having reached the appointed hour, has tripped a lever. This, in turn, has struck a match against a rough surface, lighting the tiny spirit lamp underneath a small copper kettle. Now, the hissing grows into a soft, gurgling boil. This is the part you find both ingenious and mildly terrifying. The steam, with nowhere else to go, builds pressure until it forces the boiling water up a pipe and into the waiting teapot, which is already loaded with a precise measure of Darjeeling leaves. The final step is a gentle clink as a different mechanism, also powered by the steam's force, tilts the teapot just so, pouring a stream of amber liquid into the porcelain cup waiting patiently beside it. A tiny bell, the size of a thimble, gives a single, polite ding to announce that your morning beverage is ready. The entire process is a symphony of quiet mechanics. A Rube Goldberg machine designed to save you from the harrowing ordeal of placing a kettle on a stove yourself. Some historians still debate whether these early devices were born more from a love of innovation or a deep-seated terror of cold morning floors. You suspect it's a bit of both. You push yourself up, the cold air finally winning the battle against the blankets. You reach for the cup. The tea is, as always, a little too strong and has a faint, metallic tang from its journey through the copper pipes. But it's warm. It's a predictable comfort in a world that feels increasingly overwhelming to your nervous constitution. As the doctor calls it, your restless mind, which spent the night churning through worries big and small, latches onto the machine. It's a tangible, solvable puzzle. You trace the path of the water, the logic of the levers and gears. It's a distraction. A way of imposing mechanical order on the chaos of your own thoughts. This is your first gentle routine of the day. Prescribed not just by habit, but by the ear's obsession with structure as a cure for anxiety. A scheduled awakening. A mechanically prepared drink. A moment of quiet contemplation before the day truly begins. The Victorians believed in the power of a well-regulated life to soothe the soul. They invented things not just for convenience, but for psychological comfort. This machine isn't just a butler, it's a therapist in brass and steam. It's predictable. Clanking ritual is meant to be an anchor. It's a funny thought that this slightly clumsy, over-engineered gadget is your first line of defense against the anxieties of the day. It's certainly more reliable than some of the patent medicines you've seen advertised. You sip the hot, strong tea, the warmth slowly spreading through your chest. The soft hiss of the extinguished spirit lamp is the only sound. For a few minutes, there is only you, your tea, and the quiet satisfaction of a task completed by clockwork. The machine has done its job. It has woken you, served you, and, most importantly, given your racing mind a single, simple thing to focus on. But its duty is done. Now, another routine awaits. One far more complex and far less automated. You glance from the clever tea maker to the formidable array of clothing draped over a nearby chair. The day's next challenge, getting dressed. And you know, with a sinking feeling, that there is no machine in the world that can make putting on a corset a gentle or soothing experience. The warmth from the tea begins to fade. And with it, the brief moment of mechanical peace. Your attention shifts to the high-backed chair in the corner, where your clothes for the day are laid out not so much as an outfit, but as an architectural blueprint. It's a multi-layered construction project. And you are both the foreman and the foundation. The gentle routine of the tea maker now gives way to the far more demanding and intimate ritual of dressing. A process that feels less about fashion and more about assembling a kind of soft, fabric-based armor against the world. You sigh softly. The day has barely begun. And already you are facing a labyrinth. First, the base layers. You slip into a simple linen chemise. Its fabric cool and smooth against your skin. This is followed by a pair of matching drawers. Loose-fitting and practical. For a few brief moments, you feel a sense of unencumbered freedom. A lightness that you know is about to vanish. This is the last you'll feel of it until tonight. You take a deep, unrestricted breath, holding it for a second as if to store it away for later. Then comes the main event. The centerpiece of the entire endeavor, the corset. It lies on the chair. A formidable object of coutil fabric, steel busk, and what everyone still refers to as whalebone. Though by this time it was often more flexible and readily available baleen. It's a masterpiece of engineering, designed to sculpt the torso into the fashionable silhouette of the day. You pick it up. It feels stiff and surprisingly heavy in your hands. You wrap it around your midsection, over the chemise, and fasten the steel clasps down the front. The cool metal is a shock against the warmth of your body. Now for the hard part. You reach behind you, gathering the long laces. This is a slow, methodical process of pulling and tightening, working your way down the eyelets. It's a negotiation with your own body. You don't yank yourself into it with the kind of theatrical gasp you see in illustrations. That's for dramatic effect. This is your daily reality. It's a gradual, firm pressure. A slow cinching that coaxes rather than forces your waist inward. With each pull, you can feel the corset taking over the job of your own muscles, enforcing a ramrod straight posture. It's often described as a steel hug. But you think that's a bit too romantic. It feels more like a very polite, very rigid hostage situation for your ribs. Once the laces are tied off, you stand straighter. You have to. There is no other option. Breathing becomes a shallower, more deliberate affair. A skill you've mastered over the years. Historians still debate the true physical impact of daily corset wearing, separating medical fact from the exaggerated social critiques of the time. But for you, it is simply a fact of life. It's the feeling of being properly put together. Over this goes a corset cover. A simple cotton bodice designed to soften the rigid lines of the corset and protect your outer clothes from it. And then, the petticoats. Not one, but several. You step into them. Layer after layer of starched cotton. Their hems rustling with a soft, satisfying shush. They add volume and structure. A rustling cloud that will hold your skirt in the correct shape. You feel the weight settling on your hips. Another reminder of the day's physical constraints. Finally, the dress itself. A wool bodice, buttoned high to the neck, and a matching, floor-sweeping skirt. The fabric is heavy, meant for warmth and durability. Once the last button is fastened, you are fully encased. You are a respectable Victorian woman, ready for the day. But there is one last, ingenious piece of technology to add. Tucked into your waistband is a small, silver contraption. It's a skirt lifter, or as the French more elegantly call it, a lève-jupon. It consists of a delicate chain that runs down to a clip, which you now fasten to the hem of your heavy skirt. The purpose of this little device is purely practical. When you venture outside, a gentle pull on the chain will hoist your hem a few crucial inches, saving it from the mud, puddles, and general grime of the city streets. It's a wonderfully clever solution. But it's also a source of mild anxiety. Lift it too little, and your hem is ruined. Lift it too much, and you risk the scandalous exposure of an ankle. It's a constant, delicate balancing act. The Victorian equivalent of making sure your socks are pulled up to just the right height. You take a final look in the long mirror. The person looking back is structured, contained, and impeccable. The restless energy of the morning has been channeled into this meticulous, 30-minute process. The routine, though demanding, has served its purpose. You feel armored, your posture perfect, your silhouette correct. The gentle routines of the morning are designed to prepare your mind. But this one has prepared your body. You are ready. Now, you can finally think about breakfast, and the very specific rules that govern even that simple meal. With the great feat of dressing accomplished, you make your way downstairs. Your movements guided and constrained by your attire. Each step is deliberate. Your petticoats whispering against the floorboards. A sound as familiar as your own breathing. The corset dictates your pace. A steady and unhurried descent. You arrive in the dining room. A space of dark wood, heavy drapery, and a palpable sense of order. The air is filled with the faint, comforting smells of beeswax polish and brewing coffee. Though you know the latter is not for you. Your place is set at the polished mahogany table. The porcelain is fine, the silverware heavy and ornate. But your attention is drawn to a peculiar object sitting next to your plate, the silver toast rack. It's a simple but elegant invention. A series of thin, arched wires designed to hold individual slices of toast upright, separated from each other. To a modern eye, it might seem fussy, an unnecessary complication. But to you, and to the Victorian sensibility, it is essential. Its purpose is twofold. Firstly, it prevents the cardinal sin of soggy toast. By allowing air to circulate, each slice remains crisp. A stark contrast to the sad, steaming pile that would result from simply stacking them on a plate. It is a small victory of science over sogginess. But the second reason is more deeply rooted in the era's anxieties about health and digestion. A nervous constitution like yours is considered delicate, easily overwhelmed. Warm, soft bread, fresh from the oven or toaster, was widely believed to be difficult to digest. It was thought to form a doughy, indigestible ball in the stomach, leading to all manner of ailments from indigestion to melancholia. Allowing the toast to cool in a rack was a form of preventative medicine. It was a gentle, prescribed routine for the good of your internal mechanics. So, you accept your 2 slices of crisp, cool toast. A far cry from the warm, butter-drenched comfort food of another century. Your prescribed breakfast is simple, designed for calmness and easy digestion. Alongside the toast is a single, soft-boiled egg, timed to precisely 4 minutes, and a small bowl of thin, watery porridge, or gruel. There is no bacon, no heavy sausage. Such stimulating, greasy foods are considered far too exciting for your delicate system. Especially in the morning. Your drink is not the bracing, nerve-jangling coffee your husband might enjoy, but a cup of weak tea or On some days, warm milk. This is the diet of a convalescent. Applied to the everyday life of a person deemed to be of a sensitive disposition. It's less a meal and more a medical prescription. You carefully crack the top of your egg with a spoon. The motion precise. You dip a thin sliver of your cool toast into the yolk. It's bland, but it's familiar. The entire meal is an exercise in moderation and control. While you eat, you might glance at a copy of Mrs. Beeton's Book of Household Management. A tome that offers advice on everything from cooking to curing ailments. You know that somewhere in its pages are countless recipes and dietary plans for invalids and those with weak digestions. Your breakfast is a direct descendant of this school of thought, where food was not just for pleasure, but for regulation. It's amusing. In a quiet way. This era that produced massive steam engines and sprawling iron bridges was, on a personal level, obsessed with the most minute and delicate workings of the human body. The same engineering mindset that built the world's infrastructure was applied to the stomach. Just as a boiler requires the right fuel to prevent explosions, your body, they believed, required the right, non-stimulating food to prevent an explosion of nerves. Historians often point to this as a reflection of a society grappling with rapid, disorienting change. When the world outside feels chaotic and overwhelming, controlling the small, intimate details of your own life, right down to the temperature of your toast, becomes a source of profound comfort. You finish your meal, dabbing your lips with a linen napkin. You feel neither full nor hungry. You simply feel regulated. The routine has been followed. The correct fuel has been ingested. Your internal systems, according to the wisdom of the day, have been respected. Now, with the first meal of the day complete, another gentle routine awaits, the performance of household chores. And you know that today's task involves another of the era's peculiar inventions. One that promises to be therapeutic but is, in reality, anything but quiet. The roar of the manual vacuum cleaner awaits. The breakfast things have been cleared away, and the quiet order of the dining room gives way to the next scheduled activity. Today is Tuesday, which means it's time for the weekly deep cleaning of the parlor rugs. In another household, this might be the work of a maid, but your doctor has prescribed gentle, repetitive physical activity as a balm for your restless mind. The irony is that the machine you are about to use is neither gentle nor particularly calming. You head to the hall closet and retrieve the baby daisy, a manual vacuum cleaner that was advertised as a revolution in home hygiene. It stands before you on the parlor floor, a strange, almost comical contraption. It consists of a large, concertina-like bellows made of sturdy, leather-trimmed canvas, mounted on a wooden base with 4 small wheels. A long wooden handle is attached to the top of the bellows, and a flexible hose with a nozzle extends from the bottom. The operating principle is deceptively simple. It requires 2 people. You, being of a delicate nature, are assigned the lighter task of directing the nozzle. Your housemaid, a sturdy young woman named Mary, is tasked with the more physically demanding job of operating the bellows. The routine begins. Mary plants her feet firmly on the wooden base to hold the machine steady. She grips the long handle with both hands. You position the nozzle over a patch of the intricately patterned Axminster rug. Ready? You ask. Mary nods, takes a deep breath, and begins to pump the handle up and down. The effect is immediate and deafening. A great, wheezing roar fills the room. A sound like a tired dragon with a severe case of asthma. With each downward push, the bellows contract with a mighty whoosh, sucking air and, theoretically, dust through the nozzle. With each upward pull, the bellows expand with a groaning hoof, expelling the air through a fabric filter bag at the back. It is not the quiet, electric hum of the future. It is a loud, mechanical, and deeply personal battle against dirt. You slowly guide the nozzle over the rug, the vibrations traveling up the hose and into your arm. The suction is inconsistent at best. It's strong enough to pick up loose threads and surface-level fluff, but any embedded dirt remains stubbornly in place. You have to press the nozzle down hard, scrubbing it back and forth over the same spot, wrestling with the stiff hose. The gentle, repetitive activity feels more like wrestling an uncooperative octopus. The noise is so overwhelming that any attempt at conversation is impossible. You and Mary communicate through a series of nods and hand gestures. A silent, shouted pantomime over the roar of the machine. This is a far cry from the serene image of domesticity painted in the advertisements. Those illustrations showed a smiling woman effortlessly gliding the nozzle while her partner or maid pumped away with equal cheer. The reality is a workout. After just a few minutes, Mary's face is flushed with exertion, and your own arm is beginning to ache. The air in the room becomes thick with the smell of disturbed dust, a fine haze that the filter bag fails to completely contain. You can't help but think of the older, quieter method, taking the rug outside and beating it with a wicker paddle. Historians still argue about whether these early vacuums were a true labor-saving device or simply a labor-changing one, shifting the effort from beating to pumping. After what feels like an eternity, you signal a halt. Mary stops pumping, leaning on the handle and breathing heavily. The sudden silence is almost as loud as the noise was. It rings in your ears. You look at the small pile of fluff in the filter bag. It is a meager trophy for such a monumental effort. It's hard to feel a sense of accomplishment. You feel more a sense of shared exhaustion. This therapeutic chore has left your nerves more jangled than soothed. It's a classic Victorian paradox, an invention designed to bring scientific order and cleanliness to the home that, in practice, creates noise, chaos, and a fine layer of dust on every polished surface. Remember that automatic tea maker? This is its brutish, noisy cousin. You dismiss Mary, who gives you a look of profound gratitude. You will finish the edges with a simple dustpan and brush. A task that now feels blessedly silent and simple. As you sweep, you ponder the relentless drive for invention. The need to apply a mechanical solution to every problem. Even when the old ways were quieter and, perhaps, more effective. The quiet rustle of the brush against the rug is the most soothing sound you've heard all morning. The gentle routine is over. Now, perhaps, it is time for some fresh air. A walk. But even that simple act is not without its own peculiar gadgets. The parlor is now as clean as it's going to get. And the lingering hum in your ears has finally subsided. The prescription for your day calls for fresh air and a constitutional, a gentle walk designed to stimulate the circulation and clear the head. The very word sounds placid, orderly, and deeply reassuring. Preparing for this excursion, however, involves its own set of specific accessories and, naturally, its own layer of quirky Victorian technology. You go to the hall stand, a large, ornate piece of furniture designed to hold a family's entire arsenal of outerwear. You select your hat, securing it with a long, sharp hat pin that you spear through the hat and your carefully coiled hair. It holds the hat firmly in place against any impertinent gusts of wind. Then, your gloves. It is unthinkable to go outside with bare hands. You meticulously button the small pearl buttons at your wrists. Finally, you must choose your walking companion, not a person, but an object. The choice is between a walking stick and a parasol. Today, the sky is a pale, washed-out grey, so the parasol seems the more practical choice. But this is no ordinary parasol. You select one with a polished maple handle and a deep green silk canopy. It looks elegant and conventional, but like so many things in your world, it holds a secret. You give the handle a firm twist, and a small, circular cap pops open at the top, revealing a tiny, functional compass set flush into the wood. It's a discreet, almost hidden gadget, a nod to the era's fascination with exploration and scientific precision. Even on a simple stroll through the park, it's not that you fear getting lost, but it's a comfort to know your exact bearing. A small point of certainty in an uncertain world. You also consider the walking stick you've left behind. It's a handsome piece of malacca cane with a silver top. This one, too, is more than it appears. A flick of a hidden catch allows the silver top to hinge open, revealing a tiny, wind-up watch. It's the height of portable technology. A way to check the time without the unseemly gesture of pulling a watch from your pocket. You've seen others with even more elaborate walking sticks, some that conceal a thin flask for a fortifying nip of brandy. Others that transform into a narrow, single-legged seat for resting. And even, as you read in a magazine, one that contained a miniature, single-shot pistol for personal protection. These were gadgets for the modern, prepared individual. It's a bit like having a Swiss Army knife, but for a gentlewoman. With your compass parasol in hand, you step outside. The air is cool and smells of damp earth and distant coal smoke. You begin your walk at a steady, measured pace. Your skirt, held up by your trusty left jupon, clearing the damp pavement. Your parasol is not for sun today, but it serves as a kind of social shield, a movable piece of personal space. The etiquette of carrying it is complex. You must angle it just so, to avoid jostling other pedestrians on the crowded sidewalk. It's a silent, intricate dance. As you walk, you feel the familiar presence of the device, the weight of it in your hand, the smooth, cool wood of the handle. Every now and then, you idly flick open the compass, glancing at the quivering needle. North. You are heading north. It's a useless piece of information, but the act of checking it is part of the routine. It's grounding. It's a reminder that beneath the chaotic surface of city life, there are reliable, scientific principles at work. The compass, like the automatic tea maker, imposes a kind of order. You pass a gentleman tipping his hat, his own walking stick tapping a steady rhythm on the cobblestones. You wonder what secrets his stick might hold. A pencil? A snuff box? A tiny telescope? The possibilities were a source of endless fascination and catalogue advertisements. Historians see this proliferation of gadgetry as a symptom of a new consumer culture, a way for the burgeoning middle class to display their modernity and sophistication. For you, it's more personal. These small, hidden mechanisms are private comforts. They are secrets only you know. Little sparks of ingenuity hidden within the mundane objects of your daily life. They make you feel prepared, clever, and just a little bit safer. Your parasol isn't just shielding you from the elements, its hidden compass is a tiny reassurance that you know exactly where you are. Even when your mind feels adrift, you continue your walk. The small, secret weight of the compass, a comforting pressure in the palm of your hand. A tiny anchor on your gentle journey. Your constitutional walk has reached its gentle conclusion. You've circumnavigated the small park, nodded to the appropriate acquaintances, and tested the secret compass in your parasol a dozen times. Now, turning onto your street, your thoughts shift from the rhythm of your steps to the next item on your mental schedule. It's nearly noon, the time when the second post of the day is sorted. But you're not looking for the familiar grey-uniformed postman making his way door to door. Your destination is a small, handsome kiosk of polished oak and brass that stands on the corner, looking somewhat like an elegant public lavatory but humming with a different kind of purpose. This is the local station for the London Pneumatic Dispatch Company. This is speed. This is the future. It's the closest your world has come to instant messaging. A network of underground pipes connecting the city's post offices, government buildings, and, for a modest subscription fee, private neighborhood kiosks like this one. Inside, a clock in a smart waistcoat presides over a wall of brass-rimmed tubes, each labeled with a different destination. The air within the small building hums with a low, constant pressure, the faint thrum of compressed air waiting to be unleashed. It's the sound of progress. You step inside. The bell above the door announcing you with a cheerful jingle. You've sent a message an hour ago, an invitation to a friend for tea, and you're here to see if a reply has arrived. The process feels both wonderfully scientific and slightly magical. You give your name to the clerk, who checks his ledger. "Ah yes," he says. "A reply from the Kensington station arrived just a few minutes ago." He turns to the wall of tubes, inserts a key into a specific lock, and pulls a lever. There is a distant, hollow whoosh sound from deep within the wall, like a great gust of wind in a tunnel. It grows louder for a second, and then, with a solid, satisfying thump, a metal cylinder lands in the receiving basket, cushioned by a thick leather pad. The clerk retrieves it and places it on the counter. It's a canister, about the length of your forearm, made of aluminium or sometimes brass, with a thick ring of felt at each end to create a seal and cushion its journey. It feels slightly warm to the touch from the friction of its high-speed travel. This little capsule is the great-grandfather of the drive-through bank teletube, a physical vessel for digital age speeds. The clerk twists the end, opens it, and slides out your friend's neatly folded reply. You take the small card, a sense of quiet satisfaction washing over you. The whole exchange, question and answer, across miles of city, took less than 2 hours. It's a marvel. It circumvents the slow, plodding pace of the horse-drawn mail cart, offering the swift, clean relief of a question answered. For a mind prone to restless worrying, this swiftness is a true balm. No need to spend 2 days wondering if your invitation was received, if your friend is available. The uncertainty is resolved. Of course, the system has its limitations. You can only send letters, cards, and very small parcels that fit within the canister's confines. There are famous, likely apocryphal, stories of people trying to send all manner of absurdities through the tubes. You once read a newspaper account of a butcher who was fined for attempting to mail a particularly important sausage to a wealthy client across town. Most historians agree it probably never happened. But it speaks to the public's imagination, their desire to push this new technology to its limits. The clerk is already placing another canister into a sending tube, pulling a different lever that releases a sharp hiss of compressed air, sending the message on its subterranean way. You fold your friend's acceptance note and place it in your purse. As you step back out into the cool air, you ponder the sheer ambition of it all. The miles of iron tubes buried beneath the city's streets. A hidden circulatory system for correspondence. Historians still debate whether the pneumatic post was a brilliant, forward-thinking piece of infrastructure or a colossally expensive and ultimately doomed folly, soon to be rendered obsolete by the telephone. To you, it doesn't matter. It's not a grand question of historical legacy. It's a small, personal routine. It's another way to impose order and find closure in a world that often feels too slow and ambiguous. The thump of the arriving canister is the sound of a small worry being put to rest. Now, with your social plans for the week settled, your mind turns inward again, to the afternoon and the quiet ritual of seeking a more direct cure for your nerves. The swift resolution of your tea plans, courtesy of the pneumatic post, provides a fleeting sense of calm. But as the afternoon wears on, a familiar, low-grade hum of anxiety begins to return. The day's prescribed routines, the tea, the dressing, the disastrous vacuuming, the walk, have been like placing small, neat bandages on a deeper restlessness. Now, as the grey light outside begins to soften, you decide it's time for a more direct approach. It's time to visit the chemist. You walk the few blocks to the high street, your compass parasol now closed and tapping a quiet rhythm beside you. The chemist's shop is an institution, a place that smells of carbolic soap, dried herbs, and mystery. Its large front window is a museum of modern cures, a carefully arranged display of brightly labeled bottles, oddly shaped electrical contraptions, and testimonials from miraculously cured individuals. You push open the heavy door, a bell announcing your presence, and step into the dimly lit interior. The shelves are lined floor to ceiling with glass stoppered bottles containing colorful liquids and powders. It's a library of remedies. The chemist, a man with spectacles perched on his nose and a reassuringly serious demeanor, comes forward from behind his polished wooden counter. You describe your symptoms in the vague, polite language of the day, a feeling of being out of sorts, a nervous disposition, a mind that refuses to quiet itself. He nods sympathetically. This is a language he understands well. He first leads you to the section of patent medicines. Here, the promises are bold and the names are grand. Dr. Henderson's celebrated nerve tonic. One bottle proclaims, promising to soothe the agitated spirit and promote restful slumber. Another, Bancroft's emulsion, claims to be a cure for everything from consumption to general malaise. You know, from past experience, that most of these tonics contain a significant amount of alcohol, and some, a dash of laudanum or even cocaine. They do, admittedly, make you feel better for a little while, but it's a borrowed and unreliable piece. You politely decline them today. You're looking for something more scientific. This is when the chemist's eyes light up. He gestures towards a newer, more exciting display. Perhaps you would be interested in the modern miracle of electrotherapy, he says, his voice hushed with reverence. Before you is an array of what can only be described as wearable gadgets of the most peculiar kind. The star of the show is the harness electric belt. It's a wide belt made of leather, into which are embedded a series of zinc and copper discs. The idea, as the chemist explains it, is that the contact with your skin, combined with your own natural perspiration, will create a gentle, continuous electrical current that will flow through your body, rebalancing your vital energies and soothing your frayed nerves. It looks less like a medical device and more like something an aspiring superhero would wear under their clothes. Beside it are other marvels: electric hairbrushes meant to cure headaches by stimulating the scalp, electric insoles for your shoes to treat cold feet and poor circulation, and even an electric corset for the truly committed. It's a fascinating, if slightly alarming, vision of the future of wellness. The belief was that electricity was a life force, and that a small, controlled application could cure almost anything. The science was dubious, relying on the placebo effect and the sheer novelty of the technology. But the marketing was brilliant. You look at the electric belt, imagining the sensation of a low-grade current humming against your skin all day. It seems less like a cure and more like a different kind of agitation. You recall seeing an advertisement that showed a man, previously bent over with lumbago, now lifting a heavy barrel with a triumphant smile. All thanks to his electric belt. It seems a bit too good to be true. Historians now see this boom in electrotherapeutic quackery as a perfect storm of public fascination with a new, mysterious force, electricity, and a desperate need for cures in an era of limited medical understanding. You opt for a compromise. You purchase a small bottle of a well-known calming draught, one whose ingredients are vaguely listed as a blend of traditional botanicals, which you suspect is a polite way of saying it has a bit of bromide and a lot of chamomile. As the chemist wraps your purchase in brown paper and string, you can't help but feel a little disappointed in your own lack of adventurousness. Perhaps the electric belt really was the answer. Perhaps a gentle, all-day buzz was exactly what your nervous constitution needed. But the thought of strapping on a battery pack, however discreet, feels like a step too far. For now, you will stick to the more traditional routines. The day is still young. There is still time for a trip to the park, and an encounter with another of the era's most exciting and wobbly inventions. With the small, paper-wrapped bottle from the chemist tucked safely in your purse, you decide to follow through on the next part of your self-prescribed therapy: tranquility and observation. The local park, with its manicured lawns, carefully plotted flower beds, and meandering paths, is an oasis of designed serenity in the heart of the bustling city. It is a place built for the express purpose of calming the spirit. You make your way there, seeking the quiet contemplation it promises. You find a comfortable bench overlooking the main circular path, a prime location for observing the gentle theater of public life. The park is populated by a familiar cast of characters, nannies pushing elaborate perambulators, elderly gentlemen reading newspapers, young couples strolling at a respectable distance from one another. The air is filled with the murmur of polite conversation and the laughter of children. It is, for the most part, a picture of perfect Victorian order. But then, a new sound joins the gentle symphony, a rhythmic clatter, a metallic rattle, and the occasional, undignified grunt of exertion. A velocipede is approaching. You watch as it comes into view. It's not the sleek, chain-driven bicycle of the future. This is one of the earlier models, affectionately and accurately known as a bone shaker. It's a heavy-looking machine, with a thick iron frame and wooden wheels shod in iron tires. There are no springs, no pneumatic rubber, nothing to absorb the shock of the gravel path. The rider, a young man in a tweed jacket and a determined expression, is perched precariously on a small leather saddle. His feet are a blur as he works the pedals, which are attached directly to the hub of the enormous front wheel. His progress is a series of lurches and wobbles. Every small stone on the path seems to send a jolt directly up his spine. The machine rattles and shakes so violently you can almost feel the vibrations from your bench. It looks less like a leisurely pastime and more like a form of self-inflicted punishment. And yet, the rider's face is a mixture of intense concentration and pure, unadulterated joy. He is on the cutting edge of personal transportation. He is a pioneer. The park has strict rules about these new contraptions. A sign at the entrance clearly states that velocipedes are only permitted on the main circular path and must not exceed a speed of a brisk walking pace. There is a park keeper whose sole job is to enforce this rule. A task he performs with a great deal of officious whistle blowing. The etiquette surrounding them is still evolving. Pedestrians are expected to give them a wide berth, but the riders are expected to dismount and walk their machines when passing ladies or elderly persons. It's a negotiation of space and manners, played out in real time. Another velocipede appears. This one ridden by a particularly daring young woman. She is wearing a special rational dress, a controversial outfit with a shorter skirt and a pair of loose-fitting bloomers underneath, designed to prevent her clothes from getting tangled in the wheels. She is a subject of both admiration and quiet scandal. You watch her navigate a corner, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's a delicate balance of momentum and steering. Historians often point to the bicycle as a quiet engine of social change, particularly for women, offering them a newfound and exhilarating freedom of movement. But here, in its bone shaker phase, it looks more like a symbol of dogged determination. You can't help but smile. There is something wonderfully human and slightly absurd about the scene. These people are enduring discomfort, risking public embarrassment, and navigating a minefield of social rules, all for the thrill of self-propulsion. It's the Victorian spirit in a nutshell, a love of progress and invention, a willingness to endure significant hardship for it, and a deep-seated need to immediately regulate it with a set of complicated rules. Remember the fussiness of the silver toast track? This is its outdoor, high-speed equivalent, a complicated solution to the simple problem of getting from one place to another. The riders clatter past, their machines shaking, their faces set with purpose. The sight is, in its own way, exactly the kind of distraction you needed. It pulls you out of your own head. For a few minutes, you are not thinking about your nerves or your tonics. You are simply a spectator to this strange, wobbly, and wonderful parade of progress. The park, designed for placid contemplation, has accidentally become a stage for the future. And as the sun begins its slow descent, you feel a sense of peace settle over you. A calm born not from quiet, but from the shared, ridiculous, and inspiring spectacle of the human desire to move forward, one shaky pedal push at a time. The gentle peace you found watching the wobbly velocipedes from your park bench has followed you home. As you step back into the familiar quiet of your house, you feel a desire to retreat not just from the city, but from the very pace of the day itself. The afternoon is waning, casting long, soft shadows across the parlor floor. This is the time you dedicate to your most private and soothing hobby. A passion that requires no exertion, no complicated social rules, and certainly none of the roaring mechanics of the baby daisy vacuum. You move towards the corner of the room, to your personal, miniature jungle. This is the heart of your obsession with pteridamania, the fern craze that has swept the nation. It's a pursuit that is both scientific and decorative, a gentle art form for a restless mind. Your collection isn't scattered in pots around the room, gasping in the dry, coal-dusted air of the city. Instead, your most prized specimens live inside a magnificent Wardian case. It is, in essence, a miniature greenhouse, a self-contained world of glass and cast iron. It looks like a tiny, ornate palace, with a gabled glass roof and delicate iron scrollwork. It's a beautiful object in its own right. But its true magic lies within. You lift the small, hinged glass door, and the air that greets you is a world away from the parlors. It's a puff of cool, damp atmosphere, rich with the earthy smell of moss and wet soil. Inside this sealed environment, the water evaporates from the soil, condenses on the cold glass of the roof and walls, and then rains back down on the plants, creating a perfectly humid and self-sustaining ecosystem. This ingenious invention was the accidental discovery of a Dr. Nathaniel Bagshaw Ward, who noticed a fern spore had sprouted inside a sealed glass jar he was using to observe moth cocoons. He realized he had stumbled upon a way to protect delicate plants from London's toxic industrial smog. For you, it protects them from the dry, centrally heated air of the house and creates a perfect pocket of tranquility. Your ferns are your quiet companions. They are less demanding than a pet and certainly quieter than most relatives. You spend a few minutes simply observing them. The feathery fronds of a maidenhair fern, so delicate they seem to tremble if you breathe too near. The tougher, almost leathery texture of a hart's tongue fern. The intricate, fractal-like patterns of a lady fern. Each leaf a perfect, smaller copy of the frond it belongs to. It's a world of subtle, silent beauty. Your routine here is a form of meditation. You take up a small brass atomizer, a bulb pump sprayer that looks like a perfume bottle, and give the leaves a gentle misting, watching the tiny droplets bead on their green surfaces. Then, with a pair of very small, sharp scissors, you meticulously snip away a single frond that has begun to yellow at the edge. The action is precise, focused, and deeply satisfying. It's a small act of curation, of bringing order to your miniature world. You might even take out a magnifying glass to get a closer look, examining the tiny brown spores arranged in neat patterns on the underside of a frond. It makes you feel like a botanist, a scientist exploring a new world. This was the appeal of pteridamania. It allowed amateurs, and especially women, for whom more rigorous scientific pursuits were often discouraged, to participate in the great Victorian passion for cataloguing and understanding the natural world. Historians still debate whether pteridamania was a genuine scientific pursuit for the masses or simply a fashionable way to fill the cluttered corners of a Victorian parlour. For you, it is both. The craze has become so intense that you've heard stories of fern rustling, where enthusiasts venture onto private lands to dig up rare specimens. It's a strangely gentle form of crime. Looking at your own carefully nurtured collection, you understand the impulse. Each fern has its own personality, its own slow, quiet way of growing. Tending to them is the perfect antidote to the clattering, high-speed energy of the bone shakers in the park, where they were all about jarring motion and forward momentum. This is about stillness and slow, almost imperceptible growth. You close the glass door of your Wardian case, sealing the humid, green world back inside. The low, golden light of the late afternoon filters through the glass, making the whole case glow. Your mind, which was so restless this morning, feels settled. It has been given a task that is complex enough to be engaging but simple enough to be calming. The quiet, Living geometry of the ferns has imposed its own gentle order on your thoughts. As evening begins to draw in, you feel ready for another kind of quiet retreat. Another form of travel that requires no movement at all. The last rays of sunlight are fading from the sky, and the gas lights in the street below are being lit, casting a warm, flickering glow that dances on the ceiling of your parlor. The house is settling into the quiet rhythms of the evening. The clamor of the day, the wheezing vacuum, the rattling velocipedes, the hum of the pneumatic post, has receded, leaving a comfortable silence. But your mind, though calmer now after tending to your ferns, still craves a gentle distraction, an escape. It's time to travel the world without ever leaving your armchair. You go to a small, rosewood table that holds your stereoscope viewer. This is one of the most popular forms of entertainment in your world. A portal to distant lands and fantastical scenes. The viewer itself is a beautifully crafted object. A wooden T-shaped frame with a sliding card holder and a hooded eyepiece fitted with two precisely angled lenses. It looks a bit like a primitive virtual reality headset. And in a way, that's exactly what it is. Beside it sits a large, cloth-bound box filled with stereograph cards. Each card features two nearly identical photographs, taken side by side with a special two-lensed camera. When viewed through the stereoscope, the two flat images merge into a single, breathtakingly three-dimensional scene. It's an optical illusion, but a deeply convincing one. It's magic, powered by science. You settle into your favorite high-backed chair, the one with the velvet cushions, and select your first journey of the evening. You slide a card from a series titled Views of the Nile into the holder. You bring the viewer to your eyes, the wooden hood enclosing your vision and blocking out the familiar parlor. And just like that, you are no longer in London. You are standing on the banks of a vast, sun-drenched river. The Great Pyramid of Giza looms in the distance, its sheer scale so real you feel you could reach out and touch the rough-hewn stones. The illusion of depth is startling. You can perceive the distance between a group of robed figures in the foreground and the line of palm trees behind them. A camel, laden with goods, seems to be walking directly towards you. You can almost feel the dry desert heat and hear the faint, alien sounds of the bustling scene. You slide the card holder back and forth, focusing on different parts of the image, exploring this frozen, silent, three-dimensional world. After a few minutes in Egypt, you swap the card. Your next destination, the Swiss Alps. Suddenly, you are perched on a snowy precipice, gazing across a valley at a majestic, snow-capped peak. The sense of vertigo is surprisingly real. You can see the texture of the snow in the foreground, the craggy rocks of a distant ridge, the almost infinite depth of the sky. It's a landscape so grand and pristine it makes your parlor, your entire city, feel small and cluttered. This is the great appeal of the stereoscope. It offers an escape that is both total and perfectly safe. You can travel to the most exotic, dangerous, and remote corners of the globe from the comfort of your own home. You can explore the ruins of Pompeii, wander the crowded streets of Tokyo, or stand at the edge of Niagara Falls, all without facing the discomforts and dangers of actual travel. For a person with a nervous constitution, it's the ideal form of adventure. Remember the walking stick with its hidden gadgets, designed for a prepared traveler? This is travel without needing to be prepared at all. You spend a quiet half-hour on your world tour. You visit a bustling market in India, a serene temple in China, and a vast, empty prairie in America. Some historians argue that the stereoscope played a crucial role in shaping the Victorian worldview, creating a generation of people who felt a sense of familiarity with, and perhaps ownership over, a world they had never physically visited. It was a tool of armchair imperialism, a way of collecting the world for you. The experience is less political and more personal. It's a way of filling your mind with images so grand and novel that they leave no room for small, anxious thoughts. It's a form of visual storytelling, a silent movie in a single frame. The details are so rich, the patterns on a carpet in a Turkish bazaar, the expression on a fisherman's face in Naples, that you can invent your own narratives for them. Finally, you put the viewer down. The 3D world dissolving back into the flat reality of your parlor. Your eyes take a moment to readjust. The room seems quieter, smaller than before. Your journey is over. The evening is drawing in. And soon it will be time for another kind of visual entertainment. One that you can share with others. As the flickering glow of the magic lantern prepares to bring new stories to life on your wall, the quiet, solitary journey of the stereoscope has primed your imagination. As true evening descends, the maid moves through the house, using a long taper to light the gas mantles on the walls. They ignite with a soft pop and settle into a steady, whispering hiss, bathing the room in a light that is brighter than candlelight but warmer and more alive than the stark electric bulbs that are just beginning to appear in the wealthiest of homes. This gentle, hissing glow is the perfect atmosphere for the evening's main event, the Magic Lantern Show. This is a cherished family ritual, a cozy and collaborative form of entertainment. Your husband brings down the magic lantern itself from the top shelf of a tall cabinet. It's a handsome piece of equipment, crafted from lacquered brass and mahogany. It's essentially a sophisticated projector. A box containing a powerful lamp, in this case. A bright burning oil lamp with a polished reflector behind it, and a lens at the front to focus the image. It's the direct ancestor of the slide projector and the movie projector. A machine for painting with light. While he sets it up on a small table, your task is to select the slides. You go to a large, flat wooden box and open the lid. Inside, nestled in velvet-lined slots, are the magic lantern slides. They are beautiful objects, each a miniature work of art. Most are 3-inch squares of glass, on which detailed scenes have been meticulously hand-painted in luminous, transparent colors. Looking at them against the light, they are like tiny stained glass windows. Tonight, you choose a narrative set, one that tells a complete story. The title hand-painted on the box reads, The Misadventures of a Curious Cat. It's a light-hearted, humorous tale, perfect for a quiet evening. You stack the slides in the correct order, ready for the show. The parlor is prepared. A clean white sheet has been tacked to the far wall, creating a makeshift screen. The gas lights are turned down low until the room is steeped in a cozy gloom, the only significant light source being the warm glow from the lantern's chimney. You and your husband take your seats, a sense of quiet anticipation filling the air. This is a far more communal experience than the solitary stereoscope. This is shared storytelling. He slides the first image into the lantern's carrier. A bright, colorful circle of light appears on the sheet, focused into a sharp image. It shows a cheerful-looking ginger cat peeking into a fishbowl. As the narrator, it's your husband's job to read the accompanying text or, more often, to improvise the story. Once upon a time, he begins, his voice low and theatrical. There lived a cat named Marmaduke, whose curiosity often got the better of him. He clicks the mechanism, and the next slide appears. Marmaduke is now shown with his head stuck in the fishbowl, his paws flailing. You can't help but let out a soft laugh. The images are simple, almost cartoonish, but they are full of character and charm. Some slides are even mechanical. One, for instance, has a small lever on the side. When your husband wiggles it, a second piece of painted glass slides over the first, making it look as though the fish in the bowl is swimming frantically away from the cat's nose. This simple animation elicits another ripple of gentle amusement. The story continues. Slide by slide, Marmaduke falls into a basket of laundry, gets tangled in a ball of yarn, and has a comical standoff with a grumpy-looking bulldog. Each image is a little jewel of color projected onto the wall, a temporary mural in the darkened room. Historians see the magic lantern as a pivotal technology, bridging the gap between static images and moving pictures. It was used for everything from education, projecting diagrams of plants or maps of the world, to religious instruction and thrilling horror stories. There were even companies that specialized in producing slides that depicted far-off places, much like your stereoscope cards. But on a grand, shareable scale, the show is a gentle, paced experience. The click-clack of the slide carrier, the warm smell of the lamp oil, the low murmur of the narration, it all combines to create a deeply soothing and immersive atmosphere. It's a far cry from the passive consumption of media in another century. This is an interactive performance, a slow-burning form of entertainment that requires participation and imagination. It's the perfect routine to wind down the day, to replace the anxious thoughts with a simple, colorful, and charming narrative. The final slide shows Marmaduke, exhausted from his adventures, curled up asleep in a comfortable armchair. And so, your husband concludes. Marmaduke decided that, for one night at least, his curiosity could wait until morning. He turns up the gaslights, and the magical world on the wall dissolves, returning the room to its normal state. The shared story has worked its magic, leaving a residue of warmth and good humor. Your mind feels quiet and content. The day's journey through peculiar inventions and gentle routines is drawing to a close. And now, all that remains are the final preparations for sleep. The charming, flickering tail of Marmaduke the cat has left a pleasant, drowsy feeling in its wake. The magic lantern is carefully packed away. Its brief performance concluded for the night. The house settles into its final, deepest quiet. The city outside has muffled its roar to a distant, ignorable hum. Now, all that remains is the last meal of the day. Though meal is perhaps too grand a word for it. It is less about sustenance and more about a final, gentle routine designed to prepare the body for rest. You make your way to the kitchen, which is tidy and still. The day's work done. You're not here to cook a late-night snack. Instead, you go to a specific canister on the pantry shelf. One labeled Dr. Abernethy's Digestive Biscuits. You take out a single, plain, round biscuit and place it on a small saucer. This is your prescribed nightcap. Dr. John Abernethy was a real and highly respected surgeon of the early 19th century. But his name has become synonymous with this famously bland, unsweetened, wholemeal biscuit. His theory, which has permeated the domestic health wisdom of your era, was that most ailments stemmed from disorders of the digestive system. A simple, easily digested diet was his universal prescription. This biscuit is the purest expression of that philosophy. It is not a treat. It is a tool. It is designed to be dry, absorbent, and utterly unstimulating. The idea is that eating one before bed will help to settle the stomach and absorb any excess acids, thus preventing the kind of digestive unrest that was believed to lead to nightmares and restless sleep. You pour yourself a small glass of warm milk to accompany it. The combination is the epitome of nursery food, bland, comforting, and deeply unexciting. You sit at the kitchen table in the quiet, dimly lit room and eat your biscuit slowly, methodically. It's incredibly dry, and you need to take a sip of milk after each small bite to help it on its way. It tastes of bran and earnest, health-conscious intentions. There is no sugar, no spice, no butter. It is, in a word, boring. And that is precisely the point. This ritual is the culinary equivalent of the gentle, repetitive task of tending to your ferns. It's a deliberate act of choosing blandness over stimulation. In a world of increasingly rich and complex Victorian cuisine, the elaborate multi-course dinners, the heavy sauces, the rich puddings, this simple biscuit is an act of quiet rebellion, a retreat into simplicity. It's a funny contrast to think about. Your day started with a marvel of complex engineering, the automatic tea maker, and it's ending with one of the simplest baked goods imaginable. As you finish your digestive, you think about the other dietary fads of the day. You've read articles advocating for the grape cure, where one eats nothing but grapes for weeks. You've heard of Dr. Salisbury's steak and hot water diet. Compared to those, Your simple biscuit feels wonderfully sensible. Historians often discuss these dietary movements as a reaction to the anxieties of modern life. The same anxieties that led to the invention of the harness electric belt and the obsession with nervous constitutions. When life feels too fast, too rich, too complicated, simplifying your diet feels like a tangible way to regain control. The routine is complete. The saucer is empty. The glass of milk finished. You feel a sense of accomplishment. As though you have taken your final dose of medicine for the day. You have followed the rules, respected your delicate system, and done everything in your power to pave the way for a peaceful night. The biscuit wasn't delicious, but its purpose wasn't pleasure. Its purpose was peace. And as you make your way from the kitchen towards the stairs, heading up to your bedroom, you do feel a quiet sense of readiness. The day's final and most elaborate ritual, the preparation for bed, is about to begin.